Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear students, today we are going to start with chapter number 2 of Science 2, that is Life Processes in Living Organism Part 1. So this chapter is basically on the life processes and what these life processes are required in our body and how they help us in forming energy, how they fulfill our energy requirement in order for the smooth functioning of the body. So our today's lecture will be basically an introduction of this chapter. We'll understand about life processes which we had already studied in 9th standard, and then we'll move towards how energy is produced in order to carry out these life processes. So we'll cover two topics today. I will give you a brief introduction about the life processes and how we get energy from the diet which we eat, the food which we eat in the form of diet in our body. So any living organism is different from the non-living thing is because of the processes which are taking place in the body of that living being. We know in any living organism, it's a microorganism or any big animal or the plants, the life processes which are taking place in them like digestion, respiration, circulation, excretion, these all are the processes which are taking place together and help any living organism to survive in a smooth manner. So these life processes are taking place in living body some or less in a similar manner and helping that living organism to survive smoothly, whether it's plant or animal. So in animals or the plants, this life processes helping them to survive efficiently. Imagine if any of these life processes does not taking place or they are not taking place in coordination, then definitely that life of the living organism would be in danger. So these life processes are very important for us, and that is how we are different from the non-living organisms or the non-living things. Now these life processes, in order to happen in our body smoothly, require energy. Now from where do we get all energy? Whether we or plants, animals or plants, how they get energy? The best source of energy is the diet, the food which we eat. Okay, now what we get nutrients like carbohydrate, we get fats, we get protein, vitamins, minerals. Water is the main part of a diet. So all these are the sources of energy in our body. Okay, so human beings or the animals or the plants, they all have the nutrients from the diet. If you talk about plants, plants are said to be autotrophs. We know about them. Okay, they synthesize their own food with the help of the process called as photosynthesis. Okay, they synthesize their food, they store it, they use it. Okay, but animals, they get their nutrients particularly from the diet which they have. So first important nutrient which we are going to discuss today in this lecture is carbohydrate. Carbohydrate is said to be the foremost, very primary source of energy in our body. About 1 gram of carbohydrate gives us 4 kilocalorie of energy. Okay, it's very primary source of energy in our body. Now, what are the sources of carbohydrate? Okay, the diet which we take, the sources of the carbohydrate, like sugar cane, jaggery, okay, then the Jowar, Ragi, sweet potato, rice, what we have. Okay, these all are the sources. Milk is again a very important source of carbohydrate. We get carbohydrate from them. Okay, so this, as I said you, each gram of carbohydrate gives about 4 kilocalorie of energy. So how this carbohydrate is giving us energy in our body? So we have to understand this. The second topic of this lecture is the energy production which takes place in living organism. We have to understand. Okay, and we are going to take into consideration about carbohydrate, how carbohydrate is helping us. Now if we talk about respiration which take place in a body, respiration is of two types. Okay, respiration take place in a body by two ways. The first is called body level respiration, the other one is called as cellular level respiration. So body level respiration, also called as outside the body, which take place like we inhale gas and we exhale. What we inhale is oxygen and what we exhale is carbon dioxide. Okay, so this is called as body level respiration. Then inside our body, also another type of respiration which take place inside a body is also called as cellular level respiration, which take place at the cell level. Okay, so at this cell level the respiration take place is called as cellular respiration. Now here the food which we eat, okay, and the most important nutrient, as I said you, we are discussing about carbohydrate. Keep this in your mind. So this carbohydrate, when it goes in the form of diet in a body, get break down, it get oxidized, and that happen at the cell level. That's why it is called as cellular level respiration. So the carbohydrate get break down, okay, it get oxidized in the cellular level respiration. Now again this cellular level respiration is of two type. Again it's divided into two type called as aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Now what is the difference between aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration? Aerobic respiration is the one in which the carbohydrate, now there is a type of carbohydrate called as glucose. The glucose get oxidized in presence of oxygen. That respiration, that cellular respiration is called as aerobic respiration. And if this glucose get oxidized in absence of oxygen, then it is called as anaerobic respiration. Okay, so we are going to understand both of them one by one. So let us start with aerobic respiration. Aerobic respiration take place in three steps. Okay, it take place in three steps. Let me make you understand. We are talking about cellular respiration that take place in presence of oxygen, okay, in which glucose is going to get oxidized. Now it take place in three steps. The first step is called as glycolysis. Remember this name. The first step is called as glycolysis. The second step is called as tricarboxylic acid cycle, and the third step is called as electron transfer chain reaction. So these are the three steps in which aerobic respiration take place inside the cell. Okay, it's called as cellular respiration. So in this three step, what happened? Okay, I will give you a brief idea about what happened in these three steps. The first step, glycolysis, the glucose get oxidized in the cytoplasm of the cell. Remember this. Okay, so you know what is cell? There is cytoplasm of the cell. Then there are different organs inside the cell. A very important organ we are going to talk about is mitochondria in the next step. Okay, so in the first step, as I said you, glycolysis, in the glycolysis the glucose get break down, it get oxidized, and when it get oxidized, different molecules are formed in the cytoplasm. Now what are those molecules? Pyruvic acid, very important. Pyruvic acid get formed. Okay, acetyl coenzyme A, ATP molecule, okay, then it's NADH2, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, FADH2, okay, flavin adenine dinucleotide. So these are some molecules which are formed in the cytoplasm. This take place, as I said you, in cytoplasm, and the process is called as glycolysis. So what is glycolysis? The breakdown of glucose molecule in the cytoplasm, resulting in the formation of this many molecules. As I said you, it's FADH2, NADH2, ATP, very important. We'll discuss about ATP. Its full form, just you listen its full form, adenosine triphosphate. Okay, and now after this second step, tricarboxylic acid cycle, okay, also called as TCA, tricarboxylic acid cycle, also called as Krebs cycle, because it was this TCA cycle was studied by Sir Hans Krebs, so it is named after him, also called as Krebs cycle. It's a cyclic chain reaction. Now this takes place in very important part of a cell called as mitochondria. Now mitochondria is called as powerhouse of the cell. Why it is called powerhouse of the cell? Because in the mitochondria These molecules like pyruvic acid, FADH2, NADH2, ATP molecules, water H2O, acetyl coenzyme A, they move in the mitochondria, and over there is generation of more ATP molecule. Okay, so in mitochondria, our energy are stored in the form of ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Then come the third step, electron transfer chain reaction. Okay, this also takes place in mitochondria. Here as well, there is a conversion of all these molecules, FADH2, NADH2 and pyruvic acid into ATP molecule. Now, why ATP molecules are so important for us? Why they are called as energy currency of the cell? Okay, they are called as energy currency of the cell. In ATP molecule, the name is adenosine triphosphate. It is made up of a nitrogenous compound, sugar molecule and 3 phosphate bond. Okay, here in ATP there are 3 phosphate bonds. When these 3 phosphate bonds get broken, it converts to ADP. So ATP converts to ADP, called as adenosine diphosphate. And when this out of 3 phosphate bond, 1 phosphate bond get broke up, there is emission or the release of energy, and this energy we use to carry out some work. So whenever our body require energy, ATP which are stored in a mitochondria, this ATP converts to ADP. Okay, so here when the conversion of ATP to ADP take place, there is liberation of energy, and this energy help us to do work. Okay, so all these things, let us recall again, all these things are happening in presence of oxygen inside the cell. So this is called a cellular respiration of aerobic type. Okay, in presence of oxygen. So glucose gets oxidized in the cytoplasm. The process is called as glycolysis. Then there is TCA cycle and electron transfer chain reaction which is taking place in mitochondria. Liberation of ATP or the generation of ATP molecule, and this ATP molecule gets converted into ADP by the liberation of energy. So this is how all things which are happening inside the cell. Okay, in presence of oxygen. Now what if there is no oxygen in our body or less amount of oxygen present in the body, and if we require energy, what will happen? There are some microorganisms, there are some animals as well who carry out this process, cellular respiration, in absence of oxygen, and this is called as anaerobic respiration. So here the glucose get oxidized into pyruvic acid, but further in absence of oxygen, pyruvic acid gets fermented. It gets fermented into another organic molecules like alcohols or any other organic acids. So in this case, inside a body, the best example which is given to understand, whenever we carry out a very laborious work or you're exercising, so there is less amount of oxygen in our body. At that time, we carry out anaerobic respiration. So inside a cell, because the oxygen level goes down, so here what happened, lactic acid is formed. Okay, pyruvic acid get converts into lactic acid inside the cell. So here the formation of lactic acid in our cell leads to tiredness. We feel tired. Okay, so anaerobic respiration, we have covered with anaerobic respiration. The difference between aerobic and anaerobic respiration is that in aerobic respiration, pyruvic acid leads to deplete into acetyl coenzyme A, and it leads to the formation of ATP molecule. Okay, energy is released. Okay, this is due to presence of oxygen. But in absence of oxygen, pyruvic acid forms another organic molecules or the formation of alcohol. It's called as fermentation, which leads to in a body cell, it leads to the formation of lactic acid, and we feel tired because of the formation of lactic acid. So this is how carbohydrate get broke down or get oxidized and release the amount of energy in our body in the form of ATP molecule in presence of oxygen, and in absence of oxygen it's a formation of alcohol, the other organic molecules. Okay, so here we have finished the first nutrient, carbohydrate. Okay, how carbohydrate is synthesized, how carbohydrate is get oxidized in the body in the form of glucose, and how energy we get. So I hope you have understood the first topic of this chapter, that is energy formation in living organism. Inshallah, in the next lecture, we'll discuss about another nutrient. By the time you read this chapter, we'll discuss the further topic of the chapter in the next session. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.